let's stick with this energy debate. I caught up with Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien in Perth, and I asked him whether the nuclear question is now settled for the coalition.
Well, there's certainly a lot more policy discussions to be had, but it was great to hear Dan's feedback upon his return from the United States. And indeed, what he is reflecting is the excitement around this advanced technology we're seeing around the world, and reinforcing the point that it should be part of a balanced energy mix for Australia's future. Chris.
You, of course, did all of the work on this topic, on this issue, this policy in the lead up to the last election, so you know it intimately. And it's just dealing with reality, isn't it? Anybody who's looking at secure energy supplies in an emissions-reduced world has to incorporate nuclear energy. That's what countries all around the world, and indeed all the energy agencies, are telling us.
Chris, that's right. And if you look at the most recent report by the IAEA, you see almost 60 countries now introducing nuclear energy for the very first time or looking to do so. And there is good reason for that, and you've just raised it. I mean, here you have an advanced technology which is proven to work. It can provide base load power, it can keep the lights on, it's completely reliable, and yet still in Australia, the Albanese government is insisting that it should be illegal, not even prepared to contemplate the possibility of using the technology which is being used the world over.
Now, this is the point, isn't it? There are so many different ways to enter the nuclear age, if you like. Of course, Australia has a research and medical reactor, has had for decades at Lucas Heights, just south of Sydney. But Labor and others are making the argument that the electorate, voters, gave their judgment against nuclear at the last election. But a couple of points on that. Firstly is it wasn't really a central policy debate during the campaign. I think the coalition shied away from it. But also, you wouldn't necessarily put up that same policy with government-funded major fixed nuclear reactors again, would you? I mean, for instance, one way, a minimalist way to do this is just to get rid of the legal ban, get rid of the ban on nuclear energy and see what proposals private investors come up with.
Chris, I laugh when I hear the Labor Party saying they've got a mandate when it comes to their energy plan, or indeed they say that the Australian people have voted on the nuclear question. I mean, they basically locked Chris Bowen in a cupboard for the entire campaign. They didn't allow him to speak because he was scaring people. They have absolutely no grounds to raise that sort of an argument. I think you're right, especially on number one. Lifting the moratorium, lifting the ban has to be the first thing to do. Number two, there is no doubt that we are looking at changing the nuclear policy, but I don't want to preempt in what way that will take place. Dan Tehan's done a great job at leading the charge in that regard, and there'll be further conversations, of course, among our colleagues. We're determined to get it right, but my personal view has not changed in terms of the need for nuclear to be part of the mix, Chris.
Well, let's take up one aspect of what Dan Tehan's spoken about, and that is the whole of this country understands that we've got a new relationship, if you like, under AUKUS, where the United States and the UK and Australia are cooperating when it comes to nuclear-powered submarines. Now, the US and the UK have all the technology, and they're going to share that with us, and that's a great project for this country. So it makes sense, doesn't it, to also look at a similar arrangement, similar cooperation when it comes to civil or domestic nuclear energy?
Chris, you are spot on. And if you think of what other countries also have nuclear-propelled submarines, Australia will be the 7th nation to adopt these submarines. All 6 other existing nuclear submarine nations have vibrant civil nuclear programs. In other words, they have nuclear energy. The two sectors work hand in glove. If we want AUKUS to be a success here in Australia, we must have nuclear energy. Not just for the sake of our electricity, our energy needs, for industry and the like, but in order for AUKUS to be a success, nuclear is an absolute imperative from a civil program perspective.
All right, I want to come back to your portfolio area now of Shadow Treasury. And just note in passing that this Albanese Labor government, if we put the pandemic aside, has become the biggest spending government in many, many decades. Record spending, really, record taxing and record spending. If you were to come to government, are you going to outline spending cuts? How do you? This has to come down. How do you envisage reducing the level of federal government spending?
Well, I think there's two priorities. One, they need to stop the spending spree, and two, they need to start growing the economic pie. On the spending spree, I think there's two things they need to do. One, they need to introduce fiscal rules. Ever since the Hawke government, treasurers have had rules which basically constrains their spending. Jim Chalmers is the exception. Anthony Albanese has allowed him to have no rules whatsoever. And the second thing, Chris, is just to do what families do at home, do what businesses do. When things get tight, you look line item by line item and you ask yourself the question, is this the right spend? Can it be done more efficiently? This is the thing that this government is not doing, and the coalition must.
Now, Ted O'Brien, as Deputy Liberal Leader, your job in part is to ride shotgun for the leader, and things have been a bit bumpy of late with some outspoken colleagues, and the former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett bought into these arguments on this program last night. Here's some of what he had to say.
When you have members of the party coming out, as Andrew has done, and sadly Jacinta did, without being prepared to endorse their leader, of course that's undermining their position. And I don't think that's acceptable.
Ted O'Brien, are Andrew Hastie and Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price undermining Susan Lee's leadership?
Look, I don't think so. I do understand there's been a lot of media about this, Chris, I really do. And for those who are not accustomed to the way the coalition works, I understand too that they say, well, gee, you've got these senior people talking about their own views. This is the Liberal Party, though, and I'm proud of that for one. I think this is why we always are better in government. We are always better with policy because we have the robust debate, and there's no doubt that my colleagues are having just that debate. And we all express ourselves in different ways. And so I think Andrew has just been expressing himself, his staunch views. I haven't taken offence to that. So I think we just need to get policy right. And Chris, that'll take more debate, but it's the only way to get policy right. And that is the Liberal Party way. It's freedom of speech.
Yeah, so let's end where we began and get back to the energy and net zero debate. When will the coalition be announcing its new climate energy policy?
Well, again, I want to speak for Dan Tehan, who's doing a great job at running that process. But indeed, there's been meetings this week since he has returned from the States. So work in progress, but a lot of work is being done, Chris. You can be sure of that, because what we do know is that prices continue to skyrocket despite Labor's promise of a $275 reduction in household power bills. We now have households paying up to $1,300 more than what Labor promised. The pathway they have Australia on is making us poorer, weaker and more dependent as a nation. There is an alternate pathway, and that's what the coalition's working on right now. But it really is a matter of saying, stay tuned, Chris. We'll let the process go through.
We're staying tuned and we're keen to see. Thanks so much for joining us, Ted. I appreciate it.
Understand. Thanks, Chris. All the best.